Hello, friends and future friends. Today, it's Bosnia, concentrating on Sarajevo and a little bit of Mostar. The airport in Sarajevo is key because the airport was crucial to saving the town during the siege of Sarajevo. And my very first stop after the airport was to take a cab to a tunnel. This is the house that hid the tunnel. Note the holes from the war. And here's the tunnel. And this tunnel saved that city. After leaving the tunnel, I tried to hitchhike into town. This was the spot I hitchhiked from. It doesn't mean much to you, it means a lot to me. That's the same spot, other direction. Finally gave up and got a cab. And this is that cab ride to Sarajevo. And here's the hotel, Hotel Michel. I read about it in a book, and Bono stayed there, supposedly. And that's not a super thing for me. I just figured, well, if he stayed there, it's probably pretty good. And the price was right. Now look at this place. I freaked out. I know I took way too much footage of this, but why not? I was so shocked when I saw this room. Big room with a balcony, and here is a skylight. Here, and of course, the hotel dining room for breakfast. The hotel you choose can have a lot to do with your experience, and this experience was so good that another time I went back to Sarajevo, and that was in large part so I could go back to this hotel. Now we'll look at some street action, if you will. If you come out of the hotel and take a right, you go right down that hill, and this is down into the city. When I saw these folks here playing chess, I couldn't help be struck at that point by how intense it must be to live there and have those recent memories of having your neighbors try to kill you, try to wipe you out, try to exterminate you. Sarajevo is a particularly interesting town because it is divided. Half of it looks like Austria, and half of it looks like the Middle East. Half of it's Muslim. This is a flame that commemorates those that died during the Balkan War. Like any town, they sell a lot of trinkets, a lot of stuff, of which I buy none. Now this spot I took numerous photos of because it has a particular poignant memory. I was walking along and heard these dogs barking in the background, coming closer and closer, and there was a pack of wild dogs ran right by me. And I'd read about wild dogs eating people or killing them, chewing off their limbs, and so I was pretty concerned. And in fact, the wild dogs were real. And they ran by. Luckily, they had some other business, so they did not bother me. Now we'll take a look at some restaurants. I like hookah wherever I go. And here's a nice, that was a nice hookah bar. And here, an open-air restaurant. Kind of attached to the restaurant was a real nice rug place, and this is that rug place. It shared that space. Not a good idea to buy a rug unless you really know what you're talking about. This is a hookah bar called Baghdad, another place. And I took a couple of pictures of calamari, roasted calamari. I don't do a lot of food pictures, but it's so rare around here to find roasted calamari that I'm thrilled when I see it and wanted to show it to you. Here's some nice vibe pictures. See the difference between the Muslim, Middle Eastern looking restaurant and then the Austrian restaurant? More yummy calamari on a bed of spinach, I might add. There's just a little bit of architecture to give you a feel for it. There is a museum of war crimes, a war crime museum in Sarajevo, which is really intense. It's so intense I can't describe it. This is a group of people that asked me to give them a talk on what it's like to be a radio announcer. This is the Muslim portion of the city, and it contains a square called Pigeon Square. Gee, I wonder why. Pigeon Square again. And then you can see how closely juxtaposed that rug store is or was to that restaurant. More street scenes, minarets. Now, in any town where war has been a thing, you'll find souvenirs that are war-related. And Sarajevo is no exception. Now, these are Sarajevo roses. Shells hit the sidewalk and leave marks, and those marks, those depressions, are filled in with red wax, and it's called a Sarajevo rose, and they leave those there to commemorate what happened. Pock marks, war, shell marks, and maybe bullet marks in a school of music. And this is just war-related things you see there. That is an actual internet cafe. I had a coffee there. This is from the Miss Sarajevo pageant. These, I believe, are war criminals. I think I took this at the War Crime Museum. And I believe this Hotel Europe group is where the press huddled and worked from during the war. Now, a few words about Sarajevo as it regards another war, and that would be World War I. Franz Ferdinand, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, was on that bridge at some point during the day he was assassinated. And these pistols were involved in that assassination as well. And you can see those in a museum in Sarajevo. Here's the train station because it's time to head out and head through Mostar down to Dubrovnik. I just thought this was interesting. The countryside on the way down south to Dubrovnik through Mostar. I hadn't done much research on Mostar and hadn't planned to stop there. It was just a change from one bus to another bus. In retrospect, I wish I had stayed longer, explored more, done more research before I got there. This is Mostar. And this is the star of Mostar, called Stari Most. And it's a bridge that was destroyed during the Balkan War and has been lovingly rebuilt. And once you're in Mostar, you might as well go to Croatia. A good way to go is to fly into Sarajevo and fly out of, Split. It's a wonderful trip. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. As you probably know, it's free. And as always, travel lightly. Travel very lightly.